What is up, guys? Tyler here. The Unseen Anthem is on the road to Arkansas. We just thought we'd bring you guys along for some road talk and just the trip, man. We're excited to be in Arkansas, so excited to see what the Lord does this weekend. So stay tuned.
He goes, he's coming to meet us. And I think me and him roomed together night one, man. I'm like, Jose, I room with you, brother. So, but man, just fell in love with him. He's just a sweet dude. But we got on the topic of Nirvana lyrics. He is a huge Kurt Cobain lyricist fan. And man, he unpacked that stuff. He's just a deep cat,
Oh yeah. I don't know.
That's what I appreciate about what y'all do, Daniel. I'm interrupting you. I appreciate the heart and of what this band is about. It's like the freedom to really explore what's underneath the surface. And man, that's the thing about music. Music was always intended to be discovered, not like redone.
Yes, sir.
And copied. It was always about discovery. It's always our favorite records. That's why we love the old Sun records. It's like these guys were finding this stuff they were discovering it right at the beginning, and Sam Phillips caught what that sounded like.
See, I love that, man. And I've heard Jay talk about that before, about like catching, what's coming, and not it's not manufactured or pre-manufactured, but it's captured in that moment.
Yeah.
And man, I've been listening back to some of these tracks that we've been recording this year, and to hear, like, there's a song we'll listen to here in a minute called "Let Your Fire Fall," and it was from Killing. And to hear you and Tyler, naturally, you've never played the song before. You did not know before going into this where you were going, but you're just brave enough to go for it.
Yeah.
And you're feeding off one another, and the sound comes out of Tyler, and you hear it, and the next thing you're playing that same melody on electric, and then Tyler, because he honors the sound, and you too, he lets you go for it, and he sits back and like supports that sound, and you do the same thing for him, and then it brings up out of my soul is what it is. It brings up this sound out of me that wasn't there before. Me and Wesley were talking about this just the other day, bouncing songs back and forth and doing that, like, to a degree, it's okay. But man, when you get people together in a room and they can feel each other and like you can rise together, man, it's a really, and that's why I love recording these live moments and us not having a set list or a pre-set thing. We're legitimately, it's almost like Peter stepping out of the boat onto the water. Like, we don't know where we're going. We just want to go with the Lord in partnership with Him, because that's the other beautiful thing. It's like we're looking at Him and we're saying, Jesus, you're the conductor of this symphony.
Exactly.
You're the one, and we just submit our hearts and our abilities for that sound, your song, to be released over this region, released over these hearts, man. And it's a powerful thing. And what I really love listening back to some of these tracks in this album when it comes out, dude, so many people have no idea that's the very first time we've ever played that song. You know what I'm saying?
Bro, let me tell you something. The power of that is like catching that stuff in its genesis is like that is one of the most beautiful and special things, is because it doesn't get cerebral. It's so unfiltered and so from the heart and from instinct, and like, and man, here's the thing: you bring things with you in that moment before you have time to really think about it and process it. You're bringing feelings from last week into that. Like, there's like all that, there's stuff that's in there. And you know what? I'll tell you, man, let's see what you guys think about this. I think when people listen to that, they might not even understand what they're listening, but their soul and spirit connects with that, whether they even realize it or not. That's why I think I connect with things I don't even really understand why I connect with them. Like there is like the DNA of that's on that recording that's touching me in a way that I can't really even mentally process, but all I know is what I feel about it. And somebody went wrong, you know. They put their heart into it, and it connected, you know. So
the other day I was there at the coffee shop getting ready, and man, I just almost started weeping because it was and I'm like, why have I got this feeling of like almost just deep sorrow, or like my heart is so moved deeply, and I realized it was a song that was playing.
Wow.
And it was Foy Vance. Do you know who Foy Vance is? Oh
yeah.
My goodness gracious. One of his songs came on, and after a few moments of listening to it, that song, it gripped me. But the thing is my mind wasn't even like, it just happens when you let it actually bubble up out of your soul, and especially when you partner with the Spirit of God. Man, that sound, when people go back, man, it's like you told me about Jay writing the Garden Song on an airplane, and like you can be like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and then y'all captured that, and so many people, including myself, have listened to that song and wept because they feel the genuine just freedom and purity of the heart. You know, it's not, man, I don't know, it's not a pre-manufactured thing that's supposed to be this pretty little, perfect thing, but it's just the purity of the heart. When you do that, it's actually what you really feel and what you really mean and what God is saying in that very moment. And man, that's what I really think is at the foundation of what worship in spirit and in truth. That's what it really looks like. It's the letting go of it having to be a certain way, and you just go for it, man.
It takes a lot of courage, doesn't it, guys, to go, you know what? I know what's expected. This is the business. This is what we practice or rehearse for, and this is what it's supposed to be. But leaning on those presuppositions is never gonna break the surface of what's laying underneath. Like you got to be so fearless, and that was the conversation I was having with Lenny. Is that, man, I want to get to that place where I'm so fearless, and I'm never gonna find anything new, and I'm never gonna break any new ground until I let go of the idea of myself. You know what I'm saying, guys? That's a hard thing to do, is be original. I think it was Jay saying that. He goes, like, man, one of the hardest things you'll ever do in this world is be yourself. Like, I think it was Jay that said that. He's like, think it's so easy. Oh, he's got this sermon, guys, about Jacob dressing up like his brother.
Wow.
Putting on his brother, trying to simulate what his brother. He goes, he's like, that's what I see a lot in the church, is we're all trying to sound like somebody else. We're all trying to be somebody else.
So true.
And Jacob, guys, he had to go like a real far away place to figure out who he was, to figure out who Jacob was. Like it took, like he was so caught up trying to be Isaac, and it's like it was like, how many times have I put on? I may not have put on the sheep's hair on his arm, and but like, how many times have I put a delay pedal on my board because so and so had that delay pedal, or I see the parallel between, the parallel between musicians trying to copy our favorite guys and sound like them to conform to this thing,
I used to want to bring love to guitar because that's what Shane and Shane play.
Oh yeah.
And them guys could play the fire up them acoustic guitars, and I was like, man, if I could just have a Breedlove guitar, I would say.
I know.
You know, I mean,
Jacob Mesaw, not Jacob. Jacob Mesaw. Sorry. But yeah, I know, man. It's we're so everybody's guilty of that at some point. We mimic our heroes, but at some point, you know, Lenny was always an encouragement to me about that.
that's awesome.
And Lenny's got this thing too, guys, about not just players. You know, he's always like, Scotty, you've got an expression on your own. You know, you have an expression. And Tyler, you know, I know Tyler would tell you, you know, the same thing. Lenny's real good about that. But Lenny believes that every church has its own expression. He cares. He's like, he goes, it's not supposed to be the same. Every body has its own unique expression. And that's one of the biggest things about churches now that I see is, oh my goodness, guys, we are sharing each other's stems. And like, how sickening is that if you think about it? I mean, you're making music like mom and dad's in the room, and it's never gonna be alive. And so it's like, hey, let's get Jose to translate. But Hal Circle now, literally we're falling out of the car, like the van on the ground laughing. So you got Jose and Jason talking, and Jason is just you know, he's Jay, so soft spoken and sweet. Jay's like, hey guys, you know, we'd like to want you to come out and worship with us tonight. We're going to be here tonight. And Jay would pause, and Jose would translate, and it'd be like a Mexican soap opera. Buenos dias, and Jason would kind of look at him, you know, like, is that what I said? And, you know, because he would articulate it with such bravado, you know, like, you know, the way he, you know how he talks, he's with such passion. And Jay's this real sweet, soft-spoken guy, and, you know, and you know, and then when Jose talks and articulates it, it's just full of, like, energy and bravado. And Al's like, Jose, it sounded like a Mexican soap opera, you know. Maria, you know.
We're at a gun range, by the way.
We are at a gun range. And this is like a youth concert, and literally there's all these like 13-year-old girls.
Gross.
And this guy is up there, and they're all looking around, and I'm not kidding. They kick off, and this guy is making love to his mic stand, and I'm like, oh my God. The sound was epic.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this may not be the right audience for like what is going on right now.
So inappropriate.
I was just like, I can't believe I'm saying this. Anyways, Brendan Jester put that on. Second gig that we went to, and this is the thing. Back then, we would do anything, anytime. We just wanted a chance to worship.
Yeah.
Second thing she did was at the Huntsville Stars Stadium, and I was like, man, that'll be a cool.
Me, you and Jason on that one.
Oh my gosh, that was fun. So we get out there, and it's not in the stadium, it's actually in the parking lot. And it's this tent, and we're up on this stage, and there's these tarps hanging.
Yeah.
And we get up there, and we're kind of starting, but they're really into Native American culture and all these different things. And these Native Americans, while we're leading worship, start coming out, and they are like chanting and beating the drum, and we're up there playing, and like we just have to stop.
Yeah.
Because the sound and everything, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then I hear this ruckus behind us, and I look, and behind that tarp are all these like homeless folks, and I'm like, this is a wild setup. Like, what are we doing right now? This all leads up to the next one, and this was the final thing. The Lord gave me several outs to not go do this thing, and I still chose to go. So, made the choice, loaded it up, went out there, changed the tire, did a whole thing, and I headed out there. So I drive from West Point, Tennessee, which is near Loretto, Tennessee, all the way to Gurley, that's a good 2.5 hour, maybe 3 hour trip.
Yeah.
I get out there up in the mountains of Gurley, and I pull up to a single wide trailer out in the middle of nowhere. And I start getting out the PA system, and she says, "Hey, Daniel, you can just total off. We ain't got no electricity out here." And she told me to bring the PA system, and I'm like, "Why?" And so I'm like, "Okay." So I get the guitar out, and I go out there, and she's like, "We're going to set you up underneath our carport on and right here." And I mean, it is out in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing out there, but they're single wide out in the hills, and I'm under this carport, and I sit there for a while, and I'm tuned up, and it's just her husband in his wheelchair, and their son, their teenage son, who's into karate. Boy, I mean, and they're talking and stuff, and I'm just chit-chatting, hanging out with them. And after a while, I mean, it's been a while. I'm sitting there 30 minutes, and nobody's there. And she said, "Well, you can just go ahead and start playing, you know what I mean? And folks will come around, you know, and all this." And I'm like,
Oh man.
okay.
Yeah.
So I start singing it to this, you know, to the Lord with this family. After a few songs in, she gets this ugly look at her. I mean, she's so mad looking. And she said, "We don't worship Jesus out here. We worship Mother Nature."
Uh-oh.
And I'm thinking,
Yeah, dude.
why did you invite me to do this? And I'm like, and I just keep worshiping. And they get out this ashtray, and there's this bound up leaf looking thing in there. And they light it on fire, and it smells like a dirty armpit. And they start dancing around this while I'm worshiping. And I'm like, am I going to get high? I don't know what's going on right now. I ain't never done drugs. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, this is ridiculous. And about that time, a car pulled up, and I'm like, well, thank God, at least somebody else is here.
Yeah. The awkward level just gets a little lower than
Scott, with my hand on the Bible, it got worse.
Oh,
Out of that car stepped a man with one arm, a man with one eye, and a midget.
oh my.
I promise, my hand on the Bible, and I play the guitar in my mouth. My mouth is like this. And they just jump right in there with them, dancing around this burning mess. And I am like,
That is.
singing to the Lord and like, what is happening? I'm literally thinking, nobody's ever gonna believe
You
this.
can't make a story like that up. That's the thing.
And finally, like, I'm like, oh, look at the time. Got to get home to the family. I got to feed the dog. I'm like, anything to get me out of here. And they're like, oh, more people's coming. And I'm like, well, that's good. I'm like, I got to get out of here. And no joke, man, I'm loaded up. I'm walking to the car, and up pulls a brand new Lincoln Navigator. And I'm like, who is this? And out steps the mayor of Huntsville, Alabama. They had invited him to this big muscular dystrophy benefit, and he's looking around, and he looked at me. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm headed to the house. He said, can I come with you? I mean, that was the wildest thing that has ever happened to me in ministry.
There you go. Giving stars out to coffee shops. This is my last one of the day. No, I'm just kidding. Guys. I'm kidding. She's like, yeah, you sound like you're from New York. Tough guy.
Had to really work on it.
Oh, you got me a heart. Thank you.
What'd you get, Scotty?
Oh, I got the latte. That is a great pour too, by the way. Oh yeah. Let's get us. Mind the way, brother.
Nope.
Dude, is that a old Marshall Plexi right there?
It's one of the reissues,
Oh.
but still Plexi